So for years, guys who I was interested in would tell me, wow, you are really cool. And after I heard that so many times from so many guys, I quickly learned that, wow, you are really cool is code for, we are never going to sleep together. But Ted never said that to me. When I moved to San Francisco, I met Ted. We had met while we were out bike riding, and we had been dating for like a little bit over a month or two. And Ted was like a really rugged guy. He kind of looked like Henry Rollins, but with like a lot less rage. And he was mysterious and quiet, which is great because I am not. And so, but I hadn't heard from him for a little while, which was, upsetting. And I'm also like, it's not the kind of mystery I'm looking for, Ted. So when this other guy, Rick, asked me to go on a bike ride, I jumped at the chance. Now, Rick was like really gregarious, so cute. He kind of looked like Ryan Reynolds. They were so completely different. And so I suggested to Rick that we go on this awesome bike ride called Paradise Loop, because I was like super romantic. So we meet on a Saturday morning down at the marina in San Francisco. And Rick tells me two things right away. Number one, he hasn't slept the night before. And number two is that he hasn't ridden more than 20 miles. And I'm like, what's another 25? But I was like, don't worry about it. Just take your time. It'll be fine. We can stop. No worries. So we head off into this beautiful San Francisco day, and we ride across the Golden Gate Bridge. We go through Sausalito. We stop and have a little picnic in Tiburon, and we're looking back at San Francisco, and I was like, oh my God, Paradise Loop is totally living up to its name. This is awesome. And I'm psyched, because I'm thinking maybe there's going to be something going here. So we're flirting, and we are having the best banter ever. Everything's going great. So then we head back, and we're about 10 miles. We have about 10 miles to go. And we pass this really popular bike shop. And I look to my right, and riding alongside me is Ted. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to mess up my chances with Rick, but where have you been, Ted? But I don't say anything, because I'm cool. So we keep riding, and I am getting really flustered in my head, and I'm starting to panic. So I did the worst thing I could have done. I introduced them. Oh my God, I'm such an idiot. So Ted tells us that he's heading back to the city, and Rick says, because he's so friendly and chipper, he says, why don't you join us, Ted? And I was like, sure, Rick, nothing would make me happier than to cock block myself right now. So the three of us are riding back, and I'm just like, this is my own personal hell. And they start getting ahead of me, and they're riding faster and faster, and I'm doing everything I can to keep up, but I can't. And I am so bummed. And I'm like, my mind is going into overdrive. I'm like, does Ted know I'm on a date with Rick? Does Rick know I've been dating Ted? Am I not even part of this equation? I mean, this is San Francisco. Are they making brunch plans, So finally, Rick drops back, and he says to me, hey, are you doing okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And he's like, I'm kind of running on fumes, because he hadn't slept the night before. He's like, do you mind if we go ahead to the bridge? And I was like, okay, sure. So Rick and Ted take off like they've just been released from prison. And they go sailing so far ahead of me, and I'm still trying to keep up. And finally, I was like, I'm not going to do it. So they go way ahead out of my sight line, and I realize I know a shortcut back to the Golden Gate Bridge. So I start heading behind this mountain pass, and I'm riding along, and I don't see anybody, and I'm starting to get really worried. And it's 16 years ago, so I don't have GPS, and I don't have a cell phone to call these guys. So I keep riding, and after a half an hour, finally I see this truck. And I wave it down, and it comes over, and I was like, excuse me, is the bridge up this way? And the guy doesn't speak English very well. And I was like, bridge? Doing this. And he's like, and then he goes, ride? I was like, yes! So I run to the back of this flatbed truck. And that's when I discover the cargo they're carrying. Strapped to the back of this flatbed truck were 8 porta potties. And I look up, I'm like, you gotta be shitting me. So I hoist my bike up. I'm like, I have no choice. So I hoist my bike up, and I am gripping my bike with one hand and bracing my other hand with on the side of the flatbed. And I was like, go ahead. And they start driving, and they're going so slowly. And it's up this 55, 60 degree hill, and we're crawling up this hill. And I'm just watching these porta potties, and I was fixated on them. And I'm just like, okay, you can do this. And I was just holding my breath, And so then we hit a bump, and one of the porta potties starts to rock side to side, and all I can think about is the Wicked Witch of the East, And I'm like, you cannot die this way. You cannot die this way. You cannot die this way. And finally, it levels off, thank God. And we keep riding up. And I'm thinking about the fact that, is Ted going to be waiting for me? Is Rick going to be waiting for me? Are they both going to blow me off? What's going to happen on the other side of this mountain? Because I was like, I really hope at least one of them is there. So we get to the top of the hill, and I look down, and Ted is nowhere to be found. Not surprising. But I see Rick. And so I go flying down the hill, and I'm waving at him, Rick, Rick, Rick. Like I'm this coked up porta potty pageant queen or something. And so I get to him, and he's like, so I know I didn't sleep last night, but did you just come from the complete opposite direction? I was like, yeah, and I tell him the whole story, and he's like, do things crazy things like this happen to you a lot? I go, all the time. And he says, wow, you are really cool. Thank you.